To Midoriya Izuku, being a hero was nothing more than a far-fetched dream. Being born with no quirk, he was often outcast and bullied by his classmates. Even the only people considered friends often teased him for being so powerless. His lack of strength made him realize something at a young age. All people are born unequal. Those with quirks and those without quirks live in entirely different worlds, and to step into the world of the other group is impossible for those without quirks. This point has been implanted into Midoriya's head by everyone he knew, even by his very own mother. As he began to grow, she saw glimpses of heroism coming from her son, which tore her apart emotionally. Doctors, friends, and family were all telling her to stop Midoriya before he got hurt, and she couldn't disagree with them. She never let him watch trending videos of heroes because she didn't want her poor son to be hurt. His only knowledge of heroes came from a few encounters while he was walking to and home from school, but he never came across them much. She also told Midoriya's teachers to do whatever they could to stop Midoriya from being around others with quirks so he wouldn't be bullied like he was earlier in life. This caused him to always be pulled out of class or sit away from others. What she thought was protecting him was actually causing emotional and mental stress for Midoriya. The small dream he had of becoming a hero began to crush as he had no hope at all. There was never a symbol for him to strive for, nothing telling him that he could become a hero. On one afternoon, as Midoriya was walking home from school alone, he spotted a group of people crowded in the middle of the city streets. He wasn't necessarily curious to see what was happening, as he just wanted to get home away from others, but the situation was blocking his path. "Fine, I guess I'll go see what's happening," murmured Midoriya. He walked over and squeezed his way through the crowd, only for his eyes to be met with a frightening sight. A giant slime-type monster was crushing a civilian, but just not any civilian. At first, he couldn't quite recognize him since he was being covered, but looking a little closer, he realized it was his former friend Bakugo. When he was younger, Midoriya used to follow Bakugo and a group of friends around, but after his mom enforced the rules to Midoriya's teachers, he lost contact with them. Though, they weren't even what you could consider friends, as Bakugo bullied Midoriya more than anyone else. Seeing his classmate in such a scared state shook Midoriya, and his knees began buckling below him. "Why isn't anyone doing anything? There's heroes right over there," said a civilian next to Midoriya. "I heard that none of them have a quirk that could be useful in this situation. That boy is in major danger," responded another. Hearing these words gave Midoriya insight on the situation, choking him up even more. "Kachan, isn't there anyone who could do anything to save him?" thought Midoriya. Even if Bakugo bullied Midoriya when he was younger, he held no grudge against him. He still wanted to befriend Bakugo afterwards, but this chance was taken away from him. Despite his fear, Midoriya began to take a step to rush and save Bakugo, but he stopped right in his tracks. Right now, in this situation, there shouldn't have been anything stopping Midoriya, but the truth was, everything was stopping him. The voices in his head echoed louder and louder into his ears, making his head spin. "There's no way you become a hero. You need a quirk for that. What can a powerless dork like you do? Stick to video games." "I'm sorry, Midoriya. As your mother, I'm doing everything I can to protect you." "Sorry, Midoriya. You have to sit in the back of the class again this year." Midoriya finally broke, every experience he's had in the past calling to his mind at once. "Sorry, Kachan," whispered Midoriya as he turned his head. He took off running in the opposite direction, bumping into people in the crowd. Tears rolled out of his eyes as he didn't know what would come out of his friend, but there was nothing he could do. There was never a symbol in his life that told him he could, only people telling me he couldn't. He darted through the city with no clue where he was going. He just wanted to get away from everything. With no destination in mind, Midoriya aimlessly kept running until he came upon an unfamiliar area. Nothing in the area looked familiar, so he searched around for clues of where he was. After walking some more feet, he came upon the building that appeared to be an abandoned warehouse. It was starting to get dark, so he decided he would stay out here so he wouldn't have to go home. As he was about to open the gate to enter, he stopped when he heard a voice come from inside. "Crap, someone's here. I have to hurry up and get away," thought Midoriya. Before he could turn around, Midoriya felt an arm wrapped around his shoulder with a hand over his neck. "I suggest you tell me why you're here. I'm one finger away from crumbling your entire existence," said the man who held Midoriya. A sweat began pouring down him, the first time in his life where he was startled to such an extent. I, I was only looking for a place to sleep tonight. I'm sorry if I trespassed, said Midoriya. A lost child roaming the streets alone? You remind me of myself back then. Disgusting, said the man. After he finished speaking, Midoriya braced himself for his death. Despite not saying it directly, he could tell that man's words carried a killer intent. In this split second before the last finger connected with his neck, Midoriya thought about his entire life up until this point. I hope Mom will be okay without me. There's no telling when Dad is going to return. And Bakugo. There was nothing I could do for him, but I hope a hero got there in time. I can't believe I used to want to be a hero. What a foolish dream. But at this moment, would it be wrong for me to say that this dream has came back to me? I could blast this guy with my quirk, then go protect these people, but I can't do that now, thought Midoriya. Midoriya finally let his breath out and prepared for what was coming to him, but suddenly a voice came from in front of them. Tamura, didn't I tell you to stay inside? You still have a lot of more training to do. Also, who's this boy? I didn't take you as a type to make friends with the civilians, said the man. Despite someone attempting to kill him was right behind him, Midoriya suddenly became more scared of the guy talking. He wore a mask, and his voice shook the buildings around them. The man holding Midoriya let go of his grip, walking back into the building they stood in front of. He was so quick to follow his command. Just who is this guy? Thought Midoriya. The tears under your eyes, the messy state of your clothing, remind me of Tamura when I first met him as a kid. What's your name? Said the man. Midoriya Izuku. The man stuck his hand down and offered it to Midoriya, helping him up from the ground. Midoriya didn't understand why, but the man's eyes shot up upon touching him. Interesting. You're a special case, murmured the man. I heard you had nowhere else to go. How about you stay here for tonight? I'm sorry about Tamura. He isn't used to other people just popping up here, he said. Despite him not feeling too comfortable about the situation, Midoriya agreed to stay. He felt that the man could kill him on the spot if he decided to leave, so it was the best option. Midoriya was allowed inside, and the first thing he saw was a man at the counter and Midoriya sitting on a stool. They both stared at him as he walked in, making him feel uncomfortable. You sleep here tonight. Don't stress though. They both should know not to lay their hands on a teammate, said the man with the mask. Midoriya did just that and slept there for the night, and when morning arrived, he prepared to make his way back on. Before he could leave though, Tamura reluctantly told Midoriya that his master wanted to see him. Master? Midoriya thought. Is this some type of quirk training group? He walked into the other room, but wasn't quite sure what he was looking at. It looked like some type of lab, but he couldn't tell what the product was that was being made. Suddenly, from the shadow of the dark room, came out the man from before. I call these specimens Nomu if you're curious. Yesterday, you were seconds away from becoming one. If Tamura had fully touched you with all 5 of his fingers, you would have died. Then, I would have no choice but to turn you into a Nomu using your quirk. But I was shocked to find out that you had no quirk to take, similarly to someone I knew in the past. And you were also similar to Tamura, who I also found on the street when he was a young boy. I took him under my wing, and now he has a goal in mind. So I thought, why not set you on the same path? Don't you hate going to school and home every day, being judged because you have no quirk? How'd you know this? Said Midoriya, startled that the masked man's assessment was perfectly correct. How wouldn't I know? Society is set up in such a way that the powerless are always below the powerful. You being powerless is connected to the reason you ran here yesterday, is it not? But what if I told you that this nightmare of yours can end at this very moment? You could finally feel what it's like to be part of powered rather than the powerless. What do you mean? Isn't it too late for me to get a quirk? The doctor told me I could never form one no matter how long I waited, said Midoriya. Your doctor wasn't wrong. It should be impossible. But I can give you the power you desire, Midoriya. But only if you agree to become a vessel of mine and help me achieve my dream, said the masked man. An offer that he'd be quick to accept when he was younger was now something he was hesitant about. He didn't know what it was, but he didn't fully trust these guys. What if helping this man to his goal would negatively affect the people of Japan? He had so many doubts in his head, but there was one question that he was needed to be answered that would decide his choice. Yesterday, before I met you in Tamura, I saw a sight that I never thought I'd see. My childhood friend Bakugo was being squeezed by a monster, with no chance of escape. I saw this occurring, but there wasn't anything I could do. My legs just wouldn't let me run to his aid. So, with this power, will I be able to save Kachan? Asked Midoriya. No, said the man. This response was all Midoriya needed to hear, as there was no reason to accept if he couldn't protect anyone. No, there's no way that just me giving you this quirk will let you take down that monster. You'll still need to train and evolve to the point where you can defend others. I was wrong with what I was saying before. The powerless aren't the only ones who are harassed by the powerful. Even those who have quirks are still belittled by those that are stronger than them, a chain of power. So Midoriya, accept this power and join under my wing, and soon we'll amass the power for us to accomplish our goals. The man stuck his hand out, shaking it with me, and Midoriya would accept the power being handed to him. Just seconds before, he was unsure if this decision was right, but the speech the man gave changed his perspective on the group. If being powerless was what made Midoriya feel so much regret, he believed getting this power opened up a new chapter in his life. He walked over to the man and reached out to shake his hand, completing the deal. The man stuck out his hand and hovered over Midoriya's head. The process is done, kid. You're finally released from the shackles of being quirkless, said the masked man. As soon as Midoriya stood up, the entire environment around him changed. Every noise that rang through the room hit his eardrums. Water droplets, the Nomu and the Twos growling, the masked man's small breaths that was supported by his ventilators. But not only noise, his mind was spinning as well. He let out a loud scream, grabbing at his head trying to stop the feeling. This reaction was expected. This quirk is not easy on the normal human body. It's called overclock, a quirk that speeds up physical and mental capabilities. As you've already experienced, your senses are now faster than anyone else's, but until you train, it won't be smart to use the super speed. There are major drawbacks as well, but I'll let you find out about them by yourself at UA, said the man. Despite the overwhelming pain he was in, Midoriya was still caught by surprise by the man's words. UA? You mean the Hero Academy School? Asked Midoriya. Yes, my mission for you is to simply get into UA Academy. There's still time until the entrance exams, so you'll have to train with Tamura and Kurogiri. Once you get in, I'll give you missions to accomplish when I need you to. This will make my mission much easier, and you'll be able to attend hero school like you've always wanted. Isn't that right, Midoriya? Asked the masked man. His eyes lit up with excitement, a lifelong dream that he almost gave up on prior to meeting this man was about to come true. Thank you very much, Mr. Mask, said Midoriya. Just call me Master, and no problem. As long as you both succeed, then I have no issue doing what I can for you, said the man. Midoriya took off in a sprint back to the door to train using his quirk, but ran a little too fast since he had super speed. The masked man let out a laugh as Midoriya hit his head against the wall, then went back to constructing the Nomu alone. Suddenly, Kurogiri teleported into the room using his quirk. Master, I don't mean to challenge your decisions, but do you really think it was smart to give that boy a quirk and allow him to enter UA? He has the odds of a hero. What if he decides to turn his back on us? I'm already steps ahead of you. By only looking into the boy's eyes when I first saw him, I saw the potential in him. He has the potential to carry more hatred in himself than even Tamura does. He's a double-edged sword, but I'll bet that he'll be an important vessel to me, said the man. Unknown to Midoriya, this man was named All-For-One, which was also his quirk. He's an infamous villain that's terrorized Japan for many years, with his eyes set on one goal, one for all. The current user is All Might, the #1 hero who is currently teaching at UA, which is why he sent Midoriya there. Shigaraki still refused to speak to Midoriya, as he didn't like the idea of another vessel for his master. He felt as if he was being put aside, like Midoriya was the new favorite student. Since he couldn't kill Midoriya, he decided to simply outperform him in all their missions, not letting him achieve anything. The following day, Midoriya returned back to school and saw Bakugo sitting when he walked into class. He felt too guilty to ask Bakugo what happened, so he simply took a seat. Since he wasn't too skilled at using his quirk, Midoriya didn't tell anyone that he had one. He continued to sit at the back of the class, away from everyone else. After school, Bakugo decided to throw Midoriya's notebook when the teacher left class. At first, he sat and tried to breathe it off, but he couldn't take it anymore. The students who was always timid before decided to stand up to Bakugo, confronting him about his book. "What? Dork? Do you really think you can take me on, Deku? A quirkless mutt like you would never be at my level," said Bakugo. He extended his arm to punch Midoriya, which caused him to flinch. But while his head was turned, Midoriya realized that the punch didn't connect with him yet. He turned around to see what happened, then realized that Bakugo had frozen. At first, he was confused, but he realized this was the same feeling he felt when he first got his quirk. His overclock quirk caused his perception and senses to speed up several times more than normal humans. Given this opportunity, Midoriya remembered all the stress and bullying that Bakugo and everyone had put him through. For the first time in his life, Midoriya threw a punch at Bakugo, knocking him to the ground. The swing was normal to Midoriya, but Bakugo couldn't tell what happened. It was too fast for his eyes to catch. The next thing he knew, he was knocked into the wall of the class. "What? How'd you do that? Did you really think that lucky punch of yours was legit? How about I teach you a lesson, you stupid idiot?" yelled Bakugo. This time, Bakugo used his quirk to shoot an explosion at Midoriya, but he was able to see this coming and dash behind Bakugo and push him into a desk. Once he reached his feet again, Bakugo was more raged than ever. He blew his way towards Midoriya using his quirk and grabbed him by the shirt. "Huh? I couldn't read his movement this time. What's going on?" Midoriya thought. Bakugo threw him into the ground, knocking all the air out of Midoriya. He remained on the ground, not being able to move a muscle. His brain felt like it was drained, as he was no longer able to collect his thoughts. "Don't get ahead of yourself, Deku. You're still beneath me. I don't know what that was before, but those cheap shots won't ever occur again. Don't even think about following me into UA. You're destined to fail," said Bakugo. With this, he left to go home, leaving Midoriya on the ground. Tears flowed out of his eyes, as he was still so weak that he couldn't protect himself. He walked back home in this saddened state, then went to the warehouse once his mother fell asleep. Like he knew what occurred, All For One waited for Midoriya inside and began speaking to him. "I can already tell what happened from those tears in your eyes and the scars on your face, Midoriya. You assumed that this power would be enough to defend yourself, but was proved otherwise. Just like I told you yesterday, this will be the case until you get stronger. The rage you hold within your mind is beginning to steam. Your hatred reaching levels it would never reach before. But if you continue following me, I promise you'll gain the power you desire. No matter who or what is needed to be sacrificed, you will follow my command. Isn't that right?" asked All For One. "Master, I promise you I'll make it into UA, then do whatever I need to complete our goals," said Midoriya. The next few days, Midoriya trained with Shigaraki and Kurogiri to prepare for the UA entrance exam. Day after day, his knowledge on his quirk increased, but not perfectly yet. Until finally, the day of the UA entrance exam arrived, and Midoriya was prepared for his first test with his quirk.